Welcome back. I'm Calvin, Statue Fanatic, here with another review, and today we're going to take a look at a Court of the Dead figure. This is a figure that I first saw reviewed by Gina over at Gina B Collecting, and I thought this looked amazing. Some of the pictures that she took of it in her review was just like amazing. So I got real interested in this. I've been interested in the Court of the Dead line for a while, but I just didn't want to start collecting a whole another line of characters, and especially characters that I didn't know anything about. But the reason I didn't know anything about these characters, this is an original line and an original universe created by Sideshow. It's pretty cool, actually, and we'll talk about that when I get into the review. For now, let's just take a look at the box, because we always start a review off by taking a look at the box. And on the front of it, you see a picture of Malavestros. Looks really cool. I like it. Nice artwork. On the side of it, rise, conquer, and rule. And then on the back of it, some more. And these are actually pictures of the statue, some close-ups to show how incredible the detail is. And I'm going to take some real-life pictures to show you some of the same things. And another picture of him, and on the side, kind of like a collection of some of the characters. But other than that, that's the box. And we'll put that aside, and we'll get started with the review. Now that we've taken a look at the box and the artwork, and you know, some people really like that type of stuff too, but what I get really excited about is the statue. And we're going to take a look at this, guys, and we're going to do exactly what we've done in the past. We're going to go over the paint application, the sculpt, the design, maybe not in that order, but we're going to go over all those things, and then we're going to rate it at the end like I always do. Like I said at the beginning, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Court of the Dead. This actually fits a lot into the genre of the things that I love to collect. And like I said, this is the only Court of the Dead figure that I have. And I want to say it's the only one that I'm going to get, but man, I'm telling you, these things look so awesome. It's just amazing. So as far as the Court of the Dead is concerned, it is a universe that was created by Sideshow, where there's a war going on between heaven and hell. And then there's some third-party agents, sort of free agents, that manipulates a lot of things. And this is one of those guys that does that for whatever reason. And that kind of unfolds in the story in the comics. I've read half the comics, and yes, there are comics to support this. I think maybe 15 comics, 15 or 20, I'm not sure. But there are comics that support this actual universe, the characters. They've been well developed. I am seriously impressed at how well Sideshow came up with this original group of characters and a story to support the statues that they've released. What's going on is with this guy is he's really underestimated in this universe. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that are depicted in the statue itself. But he has a lot of knowledge, and he may seem like a rambling fool or someone who just talks a lot and doesn't know what he's talking about. But I think this guy, if you read the comics, plays a really interesting part and a very significant part. When it came to this guy, his first appearance when I read it was him actually speaking in somewhat parables to the newly arriving souls that had been harvested for whatever reason that they're going to be used in the universe or used to do whatever is going to happen. You know, classic story, good and evil, heaven and hell, and then you've got these free agents. The story's been told in comics before, but I just think it's really neat. And that Sideshow came up with this particular series of characters and stories to support. Now, let's talk about the statue. So like I do always, the first thing about this statue, let's talk about the dimensions. The statue is about 20.5 inches from the base to the top of this little character here. And it's about 11.5 inches wide from front to back if you're looking from here to the back here. And then wide, it's about 9.2 inches wide. Really substantial size statue, quarter scale statue. It looks good. I do a little bit of a turn here so you can see the entire statue. And we're going to try to dissect this guy and go through it. So we'll start with the sculpt of the statue. And as far as the sculpting is concerned, man, I am blown away by this. I don't even know where to start, because if you start with his portrait up here, everything in terms of the eyebrows, his forehead, his eyes, his teeth, everything there is so much detail and sculpt going on here. It just gives it so much character. I absolutely love what they did with this piece. I mean, all around. The thing that you've seen court jesters have, you know, this one here is augmented with skulls in it. Just fine detail all the way around the portrait part of this, and his head, the stitching, all of that looks absolutely incredible. I mean, I saw the pictures that Gina did, and if you guys ever seen Gina do photos, she should be a photographer. She can really capture some things. But even her photos, when I see this in person, it is hard for any photographer to actually capture the amount of just incredibleness that the sculpt has. Going down to his neck, the collar, inside each of those are little bones and skulls. It looks like it's made out of some type of bone. Check it out, arms and hands here, the fingernails, just lots and lots of detail there. And you just go all around the statue. It just keeps going and going and going. And then up here, the scroll, and that's what I mentioned about the story, is that the scroll actually has significance. If you look at it, it's almost as if there's these two fashions right here, these two powers, both bad, good and bad, kind of battling, and the scroll is being either disassembled or formed in some type of magical mist. And you can see the writing on the scroll. It's really cool. This would look like an angel here, and this would look like some type of devil or demon. Really cool detail on this thing. The colors look amazing on it. And we'll talk about that, I guess, when we get to paint. And then going down to his torso midsection, you can see here there's actual bugs, like a little centipede bug in there, in his guts, and images of skulls. And if I turn it around and pull this up, you've got the same thing going. Look, I just pulled up the cape. You got this belt and all of these skulls and different types of really gross looking stuff in there. It fleshy tone. It looks fantastic, man. I mean, this is freaking amazing. This is why you collect statues, to be able to get something that really looks like this. Museum pieces are awesome. You know, you can stand them there. They're elegant, and that's great. But it's also really cool to have a statue that has a lot of detail in it, to the point where the statue tells a story, and it kind of keeps giving. Every time you look at it, you see some new thing that you didn't see before, something interesting about it. And this is one of those statues, if you own it, you'll always be looking and seeing something you did not see before. That's why this review won't do it justice. In the midsection again, here you see this rope area here that's coming down. It actually moves here, and here, I don't want to move it too much, but you can see that that moves. The design and paint, and we'll get to the paint again, like I said, but the design here, the stitching, all looks great. Look at his kneecaps and this outfit that he has on, and all the detail. This looks like some type of brass, and it looks like it's oxidized. The skull detail here, all the way down his boots here. The same on the other boot. Looks absolutely stunning. This looks like a tombstone that he's sitting on, and the statue actually sits on it, and it's broken apart. You can see here, if I raise it up, you can see through it. It's broken apart, a crumbling. It looks like one of the symbols from the Court of the Dead. Not sure what that symbolizes, with him sitting on this crumbling, what looks to be a headstone. Pretty interesting, lots of stuff to talk about or contemplate. And I'm gonna really get into the comics and read the entire story, because this alone has made me very, very interested in knowing how things turn out. I guess we'll go to the base, because it's just as impressive with these skulls. And this looks like melted candles. Now, what's interesting, and I guess we'll talk about that a little bit later, that each of these pieces come off. There was 15 pieces altogether, including the base and the statue that you put together. All these books, the candles, the skulls, all those were separate pieces with very nice magnets that just snapped into place there, which was pretty awesome. And then here you have all these books, and this would lead me to believe, from some of the things that I've read in the comics and about this character, that the significance is that he has a lot of knowledge, and he has the ability to manipulate situations because of the knowledge that he has, and because he's not taking that seriously. I think this is like one of his powers, this unknown knowledge that he has. Here, there are coins stacked up on top of here. Man, this statue just keeps going and going and going. And that's just the sculpt of this guy. I mean, Jesus. And I'm going to move on then, because I'll go on and on about just how fantastic this piece looks. So as far as the design, I guess I'm going to lump the design into it. I think the way they designed this to tell the story of this guy and tie it into the storyline that they have going on with the Court of the Dead, all of the significance and the objects and the items that they placed in here absolutely makes sense. And I love love looking at it and love trying to contemplate what it means. And it's one of those things where when I go back and read the comics, I'll be looking for some of these objects and seeing if there's some significance in terms of why they're here, or why he has them, or why this scroll is doing what it's doing. That's going to be very interesting. And I think I did mention here that this shield on the side here also has a skull in it. And I'm going to move on. So the design, like I said, love it. And that's all part of the design, the sculpt that I just mentioned. But let's talk about the paint application on here. Amazing. Now, in painting something this intricate, I would think that it would be very difficult, especially when these things like all statues are painted in a factory somewhere. And of course, they're hand painted, and each statue is probably unique because a different person or persons worked on that particular piece. Because of that, you would think that there would be a lot of issues. But I think one of the ways that they solved this, they created a piece and designed it, but they broke it up into all of these smaller pieces that can be removed, and each of those pieces are painted individually and placed on the base, which also gives it this clean paint application where you don't see anything bleeding over or spilling over. Fantastic job with that. The shading looks absolutely stunning on here. The colors look amazing. Very, very impressed. I did forget to talk a little bit about the cloth here, because there is mixed media in here, and there's a wire in here that allows you to fashion and shape the cape that he's wearing. And this piece of cloth is actually separate with a metal hook that hooks to two leather things that are around his arms. I forgot to mention that. But back to the paint application, if looking from head to toe, it just looks fantastic. These two characters actually have some type of translucent material that they're made out of, some type of resin, and they seem pretty sturdy too. I thought it would be pretty fragile when I took them out, but they're not that fragile. And then here again, light passes through this. I can see the shadows passing through that translucent material. This is blue, this is green, this is red, this is purple, and it all kind of blends in with this yellow going up there. Man, as you can see, I absolutely love this piece. And thank you, Gina, because you got me turned on to this. And I'm really contemplating getting the Eater of the Dead, because I really love the Egyptian motif that particular piece has. I just don't know if I can go down the road of collecting all of these pieces. But this particular one, if I'm going to have any piece of the Court of the Dead to this point in my collection, this is the one that I think that I probably would enjoy the most. Now, let's rate this bad boy. When it comes to packaging, I thought the packaging was cool. It has really cool artwork on the front of the box and all around it. That was really cool. But there's one thing that I think Sideshow should start including in their boxes, and that is instructions on how some of these things should go together, especially the ones that come with 15 and 20 pieces that you have to figure out. Granted, they were color coded, but you actually have to put them together in a certain order or they won't fit. And I think it would be important if they would include that. It would make it a little less frustrating putting something together. So with that said, I'll give it a 9 for the packaging. When it comes to sculpting design, out of the park, a 10 all the way. This was an incredible piece. The design is awesome, the sculpt is awesome, the detailing is awesome, just a fantastic piece. And when it comes to the paint application, the same thing. It's just an amazing piece. It's painted really well, shaded really well. There's no errors and blemishes in the paint. I really loved it. Fantastic job, 10 out of 10. And when it comes to the value of the statue, that one's a little tricky. This was a very, very intricate statue, a lot of pieces, a lot of detail, and I love that. But it was also $600. And so, I get on this kick sometimes, they're getting a little pricey. This guy was a little on the fence with, but I'm gonna give it a 9 because $600 is a little bit much. But overall, a 9.5. Love the piece, highly recommended. And I got a feeling this will not be my last Court of the Dead piece. If you enjoy what I do and you enjoy watching the videos, please do me a solid and like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. It's pretty amazing. We're already at like 1,200 subscribers. I am really unbelievably humbled at that people actually watch what I do. So thank you guys, and much love to you for doing that. All right, so if you'd like to stay on top of the latest news in the world of collecting and you want to get your fix for what's coming out next so you can see the latest in customs, if you collect pop figures, what's popping, man, you've got to head over to mcecentral.com. That's Marvel's Collectible and Entertainment. And let me tell you, man, there are some really cool things coming down the pipe when it comes to popular culture with these guys. So please head over to mcecentral.com. And until next time, peace.